My name is Kevin Weston, and I'm an editor at New America Media. We are an association of about 3,000 ethnic media organizations. We're based here in San Francisco, and I'm super honored to be here at the San Francisco Community College. Community College of San Francisco? Either one? Why? Because it has community in the name, right? Oh, it's a city? It's no community? Oh, okay. It has city in the name? Okay, well, let's talk about the city then. This city is a community, correct? Would you? Okay, so I'm not too far off, right? Okay. I want to thank all of the candidates that actually, showed up today to actually hear from the students here. That's important. Student voice is important, correct? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, all over the world, students are showing how important their voices are, and we want to thank these candidates for coming and honoring the students here at City College. So there's a couple of ground rules I want to go over today. First of all, please turn your cell phones, Sky pagers, two-way pagers off. Nobody knows what a Sky pager is anymore, huh? Okay. Please be respectful of the candidates. We don't want to hear any booing or cheering. So if you could make that happen, we'd appreciate it. And also try to keep a low voice during the event. We want to be able to hear everyone. Is that cool? It's cool with people? All right. I have some thank yous I want to do right now also. I want to be able to thank actually the students here at City, but also Jeffrey Chang of the Associated Students, the Board of Trustees, Leslie Smith, Tim Kilkelly. I hope I got that right. All right. The theater department, the broadcasting department, the journalism department, the Office of Governmental Relations and their staff. But we also just want to thank folks for showing up. All the media that's here, all the ethnic media that's here, we appreciate it. Okay? So I'm going to get Jeffrey to actually explain the ground rules, how these questions will go, and then we're going to jump right into it. All right?
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. So the way this will go today is that if you have seen this agenda, we have the opening statement.
Is your mic on, Brandon?
Hello? Hello? Okay, I guess you need to be close. Okay. So the way this will work is there is an opening statement section, and after that, the meat of the program today is the question set. And the question is the way it's going to go is we actually have a list of questions that we're going to ask. There are 3 questions for question set number 1, and question set 2 has 3 as well. Each section has 3 questions, and since we have 13 candidates, if you are interested in answering the question that's asked, just raise your hand. Actually, do me a favor, raise your placard so I can see your name like that. The first question of each set, we will allow 5 candidates to answer those questions. Those are 45 seconds to about maybe a minute if you can, and then the remaining 2 questions of the set we will allow 4 candidates each. So you get to choose which question you want to answer.
All right. Does everyone understand that? Okay. So we're going to jump right into it. We want these candidates to give their opening statements. What we're going to do is we're just going to go down the row that way. So you'll be first, and then no longer than a minute. I'll sing with you. Okay.
Great. Thank you. My name is Joanna Reese. I am an entrepreneur and an educator. 16 years ago, I founded a venture capital firm with no venture capital experience. I just had a new approach to the industry. I met with 400 investors over 3 years, so I got really good at hearing no, which I always took as not yet. And that's where I braced the line, persistence beats resistance. Since then, I've supported more than 60 companies in the Bay Area who have created thousands of jobs. I've also spent more than a decade working on public education reform platform, bringing innovative solutions into our public schools to support teachers and improve student outcomes. It is the issue of public education was the reason I absolutely said I had to run, because I became convinced the only way we will significantly improve our public schools is if the mayor makes it a high-level priority. We also have to grow our way out of the cycle of budget deficits, and we're going to do that by keeping jobs in the city. We've lost so many of our largest employers, and so many of our community commute out of the city every day. And we also have to make sure we take the burdens off of so many of our small businesses. There's too many licenses and permits and fees to make it difficult to run. And then lastly, we have to provide more transparency and openness so we can enable people to really understand how we spend everyone's money. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. She was great. If everyone can have it, that's the template, everyone. That was a good time. Thank you.
Good morning. It's great to be here at City College. My name is David Chu, and like many of you here in this room, I was the first kid in my family born here to my immigrant parents here in the United States. I went to high school on the East Coast in a working-class neighborhood that was mostly African-American and first-generation Irish and Italian. And because of the incredible education that I got, I have been humbled over the last 15 years here in San Francisco to have served the public as a civil rights attorney, a criminal prosecutor, a neighborhood leader, and as a founder of a small business. For the past 3 years, I have been the president of your Board of Supervisors, your City Council. And I've been proud of my record of having to bring around budget reform, tough ethics rules to hold lobbyists accountable. I've been proud that we have at the Board of Supervisors been creating thousands of jobs by keeping companies like Twitter and Zynga and Yelp in San Francisco, by helping to bring the America's Cup here, and by making sure that we're creating tens of thousands of units of new housing. I look forward to having a conversation with you today about how all of us, particularly all of you, the next generation of San Franciscan leaders, can help us lead our great city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Tony Hall. I'd like to say welcome to everybody out here, taking time out from your busy schedules. This great institution, I've got 7 children. I've actually had 4 of them go through school here, so very much appreciate. Many of you might remember that I was the former supervisor in District 7 right here. Part of City College is in that. When I campaigned and ran in 2000, I made 5 promises, kept every promise, which is unusual for somebody today in public office. Rebuilt Laguna Honda Home for our seniors, Youth Guidance Center for our troubled youth, Harding Park for our recreational needs, restored Lake Merced for our environment, and rebuilt the Ocean Avenue corridor from City College all the way to Uniprocera. Those were 4 promises I made, 4 that I kept. Before that, I was a 30-year public servant who worked as an administrator in 7 different city departments in all 3 branches of the government, the executive, the judicial, and the legislative. When I left being a supervisor, I went to Treasure Island. Part of that is infamous history. I left there because I would not dole out the development contracts for that island to the special pay-to-play interests that are running our city. And that's why I'm running for mayor, to fix this city. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Cesar Ascaruns, or Cesar Ascaruns. I've been living in San Francisco for the last 40 years. Until 10 years ago, I used to do benefits for City College, state universities, especially for this one, because Caesar's Latin Palace used to feature the best music. I moved my business from North Beach to the Mission District in the 70s. There was the ghetto, drugs, and crime. I built the Mission District without help of the city, state, or the federal. I was blessed to be in 60 Minutes. I was invited to the White House for many presidents. When President Gorbachev came to San Francisco, he requested I will sit down with him. I asked him, what is this honor? You take care of children, education, and seniors. I built this district. Believe me, you can, if anybody does that, my own time, in my own place, and I'm very proud to do that, and I will continue serving the education in San Francisco. Thank you very much.
Good morning. 你好. I'm Professor Wilma Pang. I actually have taught at City College for the last 35 years. And now for the last 25 years with the music department. Before that, I taught ESL, citizenship, and Mandarin at City College. So my main concerns are naturally revolving around education and women's issues. Seniors. I'm a senior. Imagine that I've been teaching for 35 years and I still can't retire because I want to be able to speak up for women, children, ethnic groups. So what are my platforms? I'll tell you: education, education, and education. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Terry Joan Baum, and I am running for mayor because of this picture that was in the Chronicle. I know you can't. I'm going to show it briefly. It's the cover of September 6th. It's an old African-American woman who is panhandling from somebody who is most obviously a tourist because he's wearing sandals and Bermuda shorts and doesn't have a jacket with him. And the headline is, "Clamor for Change is Growing." And I was very distressed to find out that the clamor is not to help this woman, but to get her away out of the sight of this tourist. And I was very, very disturbed by that San Francisco has sunk to this level. I'm running because I want to talk with people in San Francisco and convince them that the problem is not that this man is being bothered, but that this woman has no place to live. And then I want to work with San Franciscans to find a place for her to live, to build supportive housing if she needs it, low-income housing if she needs it. I am a Green. I am the only Green running for mayor, and with our values, which include social justice and grassroots organizing, I believe I can really make a difference. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Adachi. I am the public defender here in San Francisco. I've been fighting for justice for over 25 years, for over 25,000 people a year. It's really great to be here. I went to public schools and I went to City College. And I can tell you I would not be here right now. I went to City College in Sacramento, but I would not be here right now if it had not been for City College. And that's why, as mayor, I will stress education. It is so important. You know, my parents and grandparents were interned during World War II with 120,000 other Japanese Americans. They lost everything. And the one thing that my grandfather always said is get an education and fight for what you believe in. And I've tried to do those two things. As mayor, I would make sure that we had jobs. I think one of the most difficult things is going to school with no promise of a future. We got to make sure that people have a future, that you have a future. And I'm committed to that as your next mayor in San Francisco. Thank you.
How y'all doing? My name is John Avalos, and I am running for mayor of San Francisco, and I still say it because I find it very inspiring to think of someone like myself who's come to San Francisco with very limited means, could be on this stage here running for mayor and have a great chance of winning. I live in the Excelsior District. I'm raising 2 kids in public school. They go to school in the Excelsior District where my wife teaches. I'm a social worker and have devoted my life to social justice and fighting against poverty. And it's not a battle I take on by myself, doing it on behalf of people, but it's a battle that I join hands with people to do together. And that's how change, I believe, really is truly created in places around the world. And we can create that kind of change in San Francisco. My city and my administration will put neighborhoods and people first. We will make sure that people have the ability to craft an economy here in San Francisco that serves all communities and not just the people who are highly educated. I want to make sure we have livable communities with affordable housing and better schools, and I want to make City Hall transparent and make sure that people have access to shaping our decisions there at City Hall. I would love to join hands with you in creating that change here in our city. Thank you very much.
Students, good afternoon. My name is Emilio Lawrence. I'm running for mayor, and I'm a student just like all of you. I graduated from City College back in 1972 with an AA. I got a BA from State in 1977 and an MBA from San Francisco State in 1978. I've lived in the city and county of San Francisco for 42 years. I've come back in 2003 to get a certificate of microcomputerized accounting, real estate, and office technology. And guess what? I still drive a taxi in this city. I can't find a job. I filled out 450 applications at City Hall before I decided to run for mayor. 450 on the Civil Service Registry were over a period of 5 years. After filling out 450 18-page applications, I didn't get a job. I didn't even get an interview. The city and county of San Francisco doesn't hire people with diplomas from City College or San Francisco State. They hire out of state, out of city. That's when I decided to start to run for mayor. City Hall basically hires people, friends, through the Civil Service Commission, and two is that through the previous two mayors, which is Gavin Newsom and Willie Brown, one mayor appoints another person to be mayor, and a third person appoints the third person to be mayor. It's the same system they have in the USSR, where Putin appoints Medvedev, Medvedev appoints Putin. You got to understand that. So I'm running for mayor on behalf of the students in the city and county of San Francisco and all voters. I think we can only help the voters in this city and not everybody on the planet, and you have to understand that because they're limited. I thank you for your time.
Just a reminder, even if you really like what they say, can we keep the clapping to a minimum? Just a reminder. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to request that you applause at the end of the panel. Thank you so much. My name is Paul Currier, and I wish I could say ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce the Rolling Stones, but we don't have the Rolling Stones here today. I'm running for office here to represent the public trust and the public interest in San Francisco because it's not being represented, it's being plundered, I think, is the definition, and it's being plundered at the rate of well over $1 billion a year, and it's being done legally right before your eyes with the use of nonprofits that no one can audit. Very few people are aware of the fact that in the last 10 years we've gone from $3 billion to $7 billion budget. That's a $4 billion difference per year. So where did about $10 billion go in the last 10 years, and how come we have to pay more per credit here at City College? How come there's no money for the students, and so on and on and on? There's, I don't know how to explain it. The definition in the dictionary of racketeering indicates that we're dealing with a felony and a group of people that are committing felonies. One of them is the theft of 450 acres at Treasure Island. The supervisors voted 11-0, and the mayor's in on the fix. So one of the things we need to look at is cleaning up our city, and I'm here to refocus the city on prosperity and solutions instead of austerity and gouging people with more taxes and fees. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Phil Ting. I'm San Francisco Assessor Recorder. Great to be here today. I'm running for mayor so that you all have more say in our city government. For those of you who've ever set foot in City Hall, you probably realize that there's very, very few people who actually get listened to in the city. And that's one of the reasons I started our website, Reset San Francisco, so that anybody could talk about any issue in San Francisco, come up with ideas and solutions, and not just talk to me about it, but so that we could all talk to each other. And one of the most important issues that we're dealing with today is Muni. How many of you ride Muni every day? How many of you ride Muni? One of the things that we all need to make sure is that it's faster and more reliable, right? How many of you have been stuck waiting for a Muni bus for hours and hours and hours? And we actually have a great plan that the city paid $3 million for that hasn't been implemented. Would love to get your help. I hope you join us at Reset San Francisco. We're doing a series of Muni town halls all around the city. I hope you'll join us in one of them. Give us your solutions, give us your advice, and be part of the answers. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Leland Yee, and I'm a senator representing you all in Sacramento. You know, when I came to this country, I was 3 years old, didn't know a word of English. Went to the public school and also went to City College here. City College was one of the best higher education institution, I would say, in the state of California. I learned more out of City College than when I went to UC Berkeley. small class size, intimate relationships with our faculty members, with students, and so on. We're really a family. And out of that, I graduated from here. All of my kids graduated from City College. And that's one of the reasons why when I was facing votes of cutting programs to students, raising fees, I said, no, I'm not going to do that. You guys are the future of the leadership of the city and county of San Francisco and also the state of California. I'm going to do everything as a senator and as mayor to ensure that you get the best education. And if I could, in fact, turn the clock back so that you don't have to pay any fees whatsoever, I would do that. Thank you.
Let's give everybody a round of applause right now. Thank you for that. All right, what's unique about this forum? It's really unique because students at this school came up with questions to ask these candidates. And they did that beforehand. We have 3 students here that are going to facilitate this piece. I'll still be keeping the time. Candidates, just to let you know, I'm looking at that young lady right there. She has the time. So just to let you know it's working. All right, so we have Jeff Fang. We have Zhao. How do you do the last name, bro? Pesignoli. Okay. And Kambizi Marashi. Kambizi Marashi. Sorry. All right. These are 3 students, and they're going to make this piece happen.
Okay. So 1 second. Okay. So just as a reminder, if you first question of each set. 5 candidates will get to answer. Remember to raise your card, your name card, so I can see them as well. Thank you.
Okay. So first question is in regards to jobs. What proactive steps would you take to help create new jobs, keep jobs in the city, and enforce existing hiring and wage rules in the city?
So I have our phone. 1 second. Keep it up, please. Keep it up, please. So 1 and 2. This is the part that gets tricky. So I have 1 second. I have Joanne Reese, David Chu, Tony Hall, and Terry Jongval, and Jeff Adachi. Those were the first 5.
We'll go in that order. Let's start with you, Joanne.
Keeps being women first. So first of all, I have supported so many entrepreneurs who start their businesses in San Francisco and they end up leaving as they scale. There's also a lot of great incubators, hubs of entrepreneurs here who have no one from City Hall approach them and help them figure out the process of establishing their business in San Francisco. So I take the Mayor's Office of Economic Development, expand it with an Office of Entrepreneurial Services so that we have a direct group to reach out to these entrepreneurs and make sure that they stay here in San Francisco. We also have an employee payroll tax that is a proven job killer. We've lost so many of our largest employers. I would eliminate that, and I would stop taxing stock options. We cannot tax businesses as they grow and add jobs. We need to figure out a way that we incent them to stay and keep creating those jobs. And then, in addition to that, I would absolutely make sure that we alleviate the burden on some of our smaller employers. So many have so many licenses and permits that are just making it very difficult for them to hire new people because they're paying so much back to the city.
Okay. All right. Have David Chu, please.
So Joanna and I actually are 2 folks who sit in front of you who have actually started companies and created jobs. And let me ask for a show of hands, how many of you are worried about getting a job when you graduate? I think that jobs is the number 1 issue in this campaign. And figuring out how to make sure that we reverse the fact that we've lost 30,000 jobs in San Francisco over the past 2 years, hundreds of companies, should be the very top priority. I speak as someone who 12 years ago started a company when I was in my 20s with other friends of mine who were in their 20s. Because at that time, we had a wonderful boom. It was the dot-com era. Technology companies were coming around. That's not the case today. And I want to do what we need to do to rebuild that 21st century economy. We need to eliminate the hundreds of fees nickeling and diming small businesses today. And I'm proud that I helped to legislate to eliminate dozens of them, but we can do better.
10 seconds, Dan.
We need to do an awful lot of more things. I actually hope you will visit my website. I have a 6-page paper, part of a 21st century economy blueprint and how we're going to move things forward. But I think one of the top things we need to do is make sure that every major company in this city sets up internship programs for city college students, for SF State students, and for high school students in this city, so you have a pipeline to actually working in the companies that are headquartered here. Thank you.
David, I keep reminding you that I was running a thriving music business in this city before you were born.
But you didn't start a tech company.
It was a lot more technical then than what you got going now, pal. Anyway, folks, here's what you do to use the municipal government to jumpstart business. We need jobs. We're getting killed here. Our economy, like the rest of the country, is going down. But what can we do? We can use the municipal government to actually help small business rather than discourage it. How do we do that? We eliminate the red tape, the hidden fees, the costs and the taxes associated with running a business in San Francisco. We streamline the permitting process, which will free up about 3,000 remodeling construction jobs, over-the-counter permits rather than waiting 6 months or a year and a half to add a kitchen or a roof onto your house. You eliminate the payroll tax citywide, and business will incrementally increase, which will make up for the loss of revenue.
10 seconds.
And lastly, something very simple, real simple, reduce the parking meters to encourage patronage of our local businesses. Reduce the parking meter rates. Thanks.
I have Terry Jongval.
Yes, our job problem and our environmental problem combine to create a great opportunity. We can solve both of these problems with a Green New Deal. We create jobs that are creating alternative sources of power, that are retrofitting our city. And what we have right now, it needs to just be kickstarted. It's a program called Clean Power SF. And what Clean Power SF would do would be to build small renewable power installations all over San Francisco. It would create up to 1,000 jobs. It would pay for itself in 10 years, and it would give us renewable wind and power energy. That's an example of what we can do in a Green New Deal in San Francisco. Thank you.
Jeff Adachi.
One of the specific programs that I would champion is to provide 1,000 microloans for small businesses up to $40,000 apiece. This would cost $40 million. And I have a measure on the ballot, Proposition D, that would save $1.7 billion. I've been working on this for 2 years. And that's money that can be reinvested in jobs. These microloan businesses, there are many throughout the city. The average business only costs $35,000 to start, and each one of these businesses creates 7 jobs in the first 2 years. Now, that's change that you can count on. You know, giving the money to banks in the hopes that they're going to loan it to people hasn't worked. We have to give it directly to the people. 65% of these businesses succeed with a repayment rate of 85%. And that way, we can invest in your future, and you can choose the kinds of jobs that you want and the kind of businesses that you want to start. Thank you.
The second topic is poverty. Poverty has increased dramatically but seems to be ignored. Will you agree to come and visit the poorest areas of the city and develop a plan to reduce poverty?
Repeat the question again.
Poverty has increased dramatically but seems to be ignored. Will you agree to come and visit the poorest areas of the city and develop a plan to reduce poverty?
Okay, you have to tell us.
Okay. Oh, so, okay. The fours are, and we go back this direction from the table now, is...
Sure. Go ahead.
If I may. So the idea is that since we have 12 questions in total, and we want to make sure the student question gets asked, and all the candidates here get to answer the question. Once each candidate reaches 2 questions per each set, I will basically have someone else answer the question. That's how it's going to work.
So they get to answer 2 questions
per set,
okay.
and then if anyone hasn't answered a question yet, they will answer the question.
Okay.
So
that makes sense. So you have your list.
Yes. Also, my list goes from Emil Lawrence, John Avalos, Jeff Adachi, and Cesar. In the reverse order.
In the reverse order, coming back this way.
Wait. It's the gentleman right next to. Yeah.
You want me to read first?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we can barely hear you on the mic over there.
I'll be closer to the mic again. Do you need a question repeated?
Yeah, rephrase the question there because I cannot hear you.
So basically, let me read it again. Poverty has increased dramatically but seems to be ignored. Will you agree to come and visit the poorest areas of the city and develop a plan to reduce poverty?
No, I wouldn't. I would say this, is that if you look at the city at large, all the students out here, all the employees out here, the number one item isn't your question. The number one item is where are these people going to get jobs in the next 5 years? And that's what I would like to address here. Because we're in a worldwide contraction. City college graduate certificates aren't going to do you much good in this contraction. And I wanted to speak on the job issue because I have a plan called the Lawrence Plan, which is going to eliminate 5,000 fat cat jobs at City Hall and replace them with 5,000 entry-level positions of 33,000 apiece, which are only going to go to voters and graduates of city schools, like City College, San Francisco State, and those schools.
10 seconds.
Because unless we fund them that way, we don't have a prayer of creating jobs for you, regardless of the rhetoric coming out of City Hall. I thank you for your time.
Okay. John Avalos.
Thank you. So poverty is a reality in this city. It's been a reality forever. Unfortunately, it's also a reality in this country. And to me, my work as a social worker and as a community organizer has been fighting against poverty for years. About 15 years ago, I helped to write a study called Silencing Poverty about how we don't have enough attention that's paid to poverty in the media. And I think that's a role that the media here can play as well, to be able to focus on the challenges that are facing very low-income communities. I believe I'm the candidate who's speaking most about the challenges to the low-income, middle-income San Franciscans. My plan is to have a focus on this on a daily basis. I want to fully fund education in San Francisco. That's a place where we have the greatest ability to fight poverty, is assuring we have opportunity and skill building in our schools, and that includes City College as well. Last year, I wrote the local hire ordinance. I worked with people all across San Francisco to help draft the ordinance. And what it does is when we use our tax dollars to build new buildings, to refurbish our parks, to build new water systems in San Francisco, that we are hiring local San Franciscans. And it's targeting people from low-income communities,
10 seconds.
Communities that don't have access to jobs. And it's the start of my plan to rebuild San Francisco and to fight poverty here in the city.
I've spent my entire career working with poor people as a public defender, and I can tell you that there's a reason why things haven't changed. Today, 12% of San Franciscans live in poverty, under the federal poverty level. 12% of children in our city live at the poverty level. Why? Because things haven't changed. Yes, our city is going broke. Yes, we have these huge deficits. What is anyone doing about it? I was the only one who 2 years ago looked at the fact that we had one police officer, not even the chief of police, who was earning more than the President of the United States, earned $516,000 in 1 year and retired with a $240,000 pension for the rest of his life. We are spending this year $500 million on pensions for individuals who have retired. And we're cutting jobs, we're cutting services. You know, we've cut summer school for 10,000 kids for the past 2 years. Why? Because we don't have $1 million to pay for it. And yet we're spending 500 times that. You're experiencing the same thing here in City College, where they're spending $180,000 to keep a young person in the California Youth Authority. That's enough to send them to Columbia Law School rather than putting the money here. And so as mayor, that would be a priority, to reverse that, to get those resources, and to turn that situation around.
Okay. Cesar.
I'm going to follow up Mr. Adachi. It bothers me. I see him once a week in Westlake Jones. He's a battalion chief. He told me, Caesar, if I knew my retirement, it will be $125,000. My salary was $100,000. I should have retired a long time ago. It's so much corruption. The $567,000 a deputy chief he made is just out of control. Let me put it this way. It's so much. One thing that bothers me lately, you paying $1.5 billion for 8 blocks. I'm not against progress. Just the city is broke. Like Supervisor Avalos says, a lot of people in poverty. $5.5 billion from Market to Columbus on Broadway. Who you satisfying? I'm sorry to tell you that. I'm not against anybody. I'm Latin. I don't discriminate. It never happened in my life. That is just it's satisfied to some politicians in Chinatown. 8.5 blocks for $1.5 billion right now. You know how much money we can do that with that per 8 jobs? $1.5 billion of waste for put people to work, and besides that, lots of waste in City Hall. I'm running to cut that corruption. You put me in City Hall, and you will see the results. I can deliver to you, but you have to vote for somebody you trust. Thank you very much.
This is our third question and the last one of this set.
Right. The topic is city services. With unemployment at record levels and the city budget in deficit, what is your plan to see that residents from all areas of the city receive the services and benefits they need?
Okay. All right. Let's see.
Can you repeat this? You have to speak a little louder.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a kind of allergy, but I'm sorry about that.
Sure. With unemployment at record levels and the city budget in deficit, what is your plan to see that residents from all areas of the city receive the services and benefits they need?
Okay. All right. Okay. The 4 candidates will answer this question is, starting from this side of the table again, Joanne Reese and John Avalos, Emil Lawrence, and Phil Ting.
Did you have your hand up? Leland did too.
Let's squeeze it in. Yeah. We'll let you answer, Leland. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, then since those 4 candidates did raise their placard first, so if we add Leland, it'll be 5 candidates answering this question. If this is okay with everyone.
What's the solution?
5 people answer.
I have not answered any questions yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, can we start? So we have to start with the way that we budget. When we have a budget deficit in San Francisco, we tell every city department if there's a 10% budget deficit, cut your department spending by 10%. We absolutely have to do it the opposite way. We have to go department by department from the bottom and figure out what are the investments in critical services that we need to maintain or actually invest more in that best serve the people in this community, and what are some things that we are funding that are no longer meeting their intended purpose that we should be eliminating altogether. I actually tried to go through this process. I requested via Sunshine Request, which is a legal process, every single city budget so I could see the line item detail to do this, and to this date I've gotten 0. Not one city department has sent a line item budget. And then in the main controller's budget, where I keep getting referred, there are categories called other expenses with $54 million in them. Other expenses, $22 million. Until we actually enable ourselves to get down to these specific levels, there's no way that you know that the investment is going into critical services. We should also be able to see the budgets by district to make sure that we're allocating money fairly across the different districts, because there's huge disparities in this community between the people with money and people without, and we absolutely have to implement this process and really embrace transparency, which City Hall talks about but does not do.
10 years.
Thank you.
10 years ago, when I served on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, the budget at that time was $3 billion. Right now, the budget is $6.8 billion. And yet, Muni is broken. our infrastructure is broken, city services continue to be diminished. You have to ask the question, what are the priorities of the city and county of San Francisco? And clearly, it is about our children, it is about our neighborhoods, it's about our community, it's about poor people, it's about our seniors. And so what I would do is to basically go through that entire budget and look at where the fat might be. One of the areas, I think, of the fat is that you give golden parachutes. City and County of San Francisco give golden parachutes to individuals for doing nothing. Nat Ford, who was the head of Muni, for doing nothing, got a golden parachute of $500,000. Can you imagine what you would do with $500,000? You would probably clean the street, fix a Muni, and do a lot more, and you still have some extras to do other things. That's what I would do.
So I have John Avalos.
Thank you. More than any other person on this panel here, I've actually worked to balance the city's budget. 2 years in a row, I was chair of the Budget Committee of the Board of Supervisors. We had $500 million budget deficits in those years. And I can tell you, if it comes to making sure that we are sharing and extending the city services equitably across San Francisco, it comes down to a question of priorities. And for me, I'm going to be prioritizing the services that San Franciscans need most. And those are prevention services that help, that provide opportunity for people away from crime, our park services, our education services, our child care services, services for seniors. And when I prioritize those things, I have to deprioritize others. And I was actually able to move millions and millions of dollars from some of the fat and some of the biggest departments like the fire department and the police department to make that happen. I took a lot of heat from the firefighters and the police department to do that, but I thought it was the right thing to do. And I believe it's important to stand on your commitments about doing that. I also last year put on the ballot a measure to raise $45 million in revenue for the city. And Mayor Lee would not have had the ability to pass a budget without that revenue that you voted on as voters in San Francisco. These are my ideas. This is what my commitment is, my record is. I hope you can approve that record by voting for me this November. Thank you.
Emil Lawrence.
I think Emil
Lawrence.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a subject that I could spend a half hour on. I'm just going to tell you a couple of points very quickly. I've spoken before the Board of Supervisors over the period of the last 4 to 5 years. I've watched the Finance Commission in action. I've watched the MTA in action. And I've also watched various factions of SFO, the Airport Commission, and the Police Commission in action. Most of the people at City Hall don't know what a budget is. They make up figures to fill in spots of $15 million at the MTA for selling taxi medallions that didn't exist. I've requested 40 documents from City Hall, from Dennis Herrera, the city attorney. He's refused to turn them over. I requested 16 for the balance sheets and income statements at SFO. They have refused to turn them over. They don't want you to know what the real problem is. San Francisco is probably in the hole $500 to $700 million or more on an annual basis. The carryover in a forward year. 85% of San Francisco's problem is payroll, pensions, and liabilities connected with salaries. They don't want you to know that their salaries are going up by 8.5% a year. The pensions are going up by 8.5% of the year, and they're not going to worry about it because it's not going to blow up under their term. So pension and liabilities is a big issue in San Francisco, and it's a big problem across the whole state, let alone from the federal government, state, and local level. My plan, which is the Lawrence plan, is going to blow a hole into that pension and liability problem and put people back to work that deserve to go to work, and two, to get rid of a lot of fat of people making $150,000 to $350,000 a year claiming they're getting premium time, overtime, and don't touch my salary.
Okay, you got to stop.
That's what I plan to do. I thank you for your time.
Thanks. Okay, I'm going to let Jeffrey clear up just a little bit of confusion we have before we step into the next round. Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay. At each question set, every candidate gets to answer 2 questions, and basically, whoever raised their placard first that I see, I'm paying very close attention. I will call them as long as I don't exceed 2 questions. But seeing as how we do still have a candidate who has not answered any question yet, and Mr. Hall does seem to want to answer this question very eagerly. If it's okay with the candidates.
No, Mr. Hall's answered the question. Okay, so let.
You had called me and said I could.
Okay, hold on. This is how we'll do this.
Okay.
The next set of questions, you have the first opportunity, sir, to answer the first question. Is that okay?
No.
Is that a way to solve it?
With all due respect, I haven't answered a question yet.
Okay.
And
well,
the gentleman, the moderator, called my name as part of the order to speak.
Okay. Well, we'll let you answer this last question.
If we could stick with that order that was originally called for this question, I would appreciate that.
Okay. Jeff is going to do a better job. You can answer this last question. That'll be the end of the set. Okay. Is that all right?
Can I make one suggestion? The rules that we were given said that in every round we were going to have 3 rounds, 4 people being able to answer each one. I think that's fair, as opposed to trying to fight over to be able to answer 2 out of 3. If you guys want to run it that way, that's fine, but I want to make sure that everyone here has an opportunity to speak, and that we're playing by the rules we were given.
We have a little bit of time at the end, so we'll definitely try to make up for folks that didn't speak as much as they would like, or because of this earlier confusion.
Okay.
Is that okay?
All right. First of all, I apologize.
3 questions per set, just to let you guys know.
Okay. First of all, I apologize. However, since we do have a little bit more time now, if you have not answered a question at this point, if you want to answer this question after the order that originally called, you can answer the question if you like.
Okay. And I'll try to keep a lid on it for folks. All right. So we're starting our next set of questions. This is question set 2, and you guys take it away.
Okay. So this question.
Let's go. Let's just go. Go ahead and ask your question, man.
Okay. So this question is on crime. What plan do you have for lowering crime in the city? What plan do you have for lowering crime in the city?
The question is, what plan do you have for lowering crime in the city? No one wants to answer that one? We got, okay, who do you have? We have Emil?
No.
Got the list? Right.
Tony.
So, Emil, I think you got your card up first. Go ahead.
The question is related to lowering crime in the city. First of all, I've been speaking before the police commission for the last 2.5 years. I'm a regular speaker on a weekly basis. I was against George Gasson, the previous police chief that came from out of town to take over the police department. I was adamantly for Greg Schur, the new police chief, because he was hired from the rank and file of the present police force. A man that graduated from schools in San Francisco, a man that came through the ranks of 30 years, and I was a number one for the man before he even knew who he was. 2 is that crime is going down on an annual basis anyway, believe it or not. And there's a lot of statistics coming out across the United States, the reason for it. One of them are claiming to be that the so-called criminals are not being born today, based on the abortion laws. I don't know if that's true or not. I just say this, that a lot of crime in San Francisco attracts an unusual amount of people from the Bay Area, and a lot of crime in San Francisco is not coming from San Franciscans. It's coming from out-of-towners.
10 seconds.
And it's a problem that the police deal with almost nonstop because we have easy access into this city from Sam trams to the BART system, the bus system, and that type of thing. So it's a problem that kind of fluctuates up and down based on the number of people showing up in San Francisco. And 2, crime's been going down because economic activity has been going down.
Wrap it up, please.
So I think right now is that there isn't much of a change that I can do or anybody on this panel can do to effectively reduce crime outside of the fact that put the criminals away if they're committing acts that are violating both local, federal, and state laws. And that's all I can tell you. I don't have a handle on that anymore outside of bringing in the proper people into the police force. I thank you.
Thanks.
Next I have Terry.
We're cutting hours in the rec centers, in the libraries. We're cutting our schools so that people can't even get the classes they need, so they don't have an incentive to go to school. We're cutting counselors. We're cutting all the things that people who are in need. And meanwhile, the banks are getting billion-dollar bailouts. The rich are getting richer. All the money is going up. In order to cut crime, we need to nurture people who have problems and need help. And in order to do that, we need more money. And I say it's time to tax the rich. Duh. And I'm talking about at the federal level, and I'm talking about the state level, and we can have a municipal income tax, a progressive income tax. We have a lot of wealth in San Francisco. Cities in Ohio have progressive income tax, and we can do that in San Francisco and help the people who need it. Thank you.
Okay. Next I have Cesar. Cesar?
That's me.
Yes, that's you.
Okay. I'm going to tell you something. When I moved, like I said before, in the 70s to the Mission District, crime, drugs, 6 o'clock the Mission District, it was finished. And the Valencia, there was only 2 places, La Rondalla and 20 Valencia, and Casa Madrid, which was right now is next to the City College and the Mission Campus, and Valenciano. For a long time, there were the law riders, they were terrorizing the Mission District. There were people from San Ho or from Hayward, wherever, and I approached them after this long time, and I called them. I rent a beautiful law rider, and I say, you and I, we're going to go to North Hill, we're going to go to the Marina, we're going to go to the beautiful places, other people, North Beach. Or he says, we cannot do that. He says, yes, you have to do that. It was no police department. After that meeting, whatever, the crime stopped in the Mission District. We're still there, but the thing is, like the gentleman, Mr. Adacho, whatever somebody was saying, one time I was in Taylor and Turk, and I see a beautiful police car. I say, excuse me, Sergeant, in that corner across the street, they're selling drugs. Oh, yeah, we know that.
Wrap it up, please.
And we have to be accountable for this. And myself is cut a lot of red tape in the police department. I will eliminate deputy chiefs, commanders. I will hire private securities. They will patrol all San Francisco, and the crime will decrease. Well, thank you. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Beautiful plans anyway.
Just doing my job, brother. Sorry.
Okay. I have Tony Hall, and then, yes, I do. The first round, it does have 5 questions, so I believe actually John Avalos. My apologies, I didn't get you. Okay.
Do you want me to speak, or do you want John to speak?
I'll have Tony Hall goes, and then John Avalos. Thank you.
Okay. If the issue is still crime, is that right? Great. Okay. I actually passed legislation relating to safe and clean streets. But you want to know something? Without enforcement by the police department, it doesn't mean anything. You can talk about ideas forever. As your mayor, I will bring leadership to the mayor's office that insist that our police department do the work that vocational cops, and I say vocational cops, do, because that goes far beyond hitting people over the head and bullying people. It requires sensitivity training. It requires servicing the community that they are dedicated and have sworn to protect. So leadership out of the mayor's office. I believe in police patrols,
10 seconds.
Police beats, and I believe in community policing. But the main thing here is re-educating the police department to understand we're giving them great young men and women from this part of the city, all over the city, to understand who they're servicing, who they're protecting, to work with the people. And that's the kind of leadership that I will bring to the mayor's office and insist that my police department obey by.
Say there's many people standing and there's many seats available, so why don't you come in and find a seat, make yourself comfortable.
Now that's the real mayor, multitasking. I like it. John Avalos, this is your last one on this. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize. I do have to leave early because I have another event. that I have to be at shortly. So thank you for the question. And it's a big issue facing San Francisco is crime and violence. And for me, our response as a city is really about getting at the root causes of crime and violence to make sure that we have opportunity for people who lack opportunity. And when people lack opportunity, they find it in things that are illegal or things that are violent. And what I want to make sure is early on, we can fund our education. My goals as a mayor over 8 years is to fully fund education in San Francisco like no other city in California. And it's going to start from preschool. The early years are the most important years to be able to develop lifelong learning. And if we make the right investments in early childhood education, we can know that we can have a great impact on people growing up in their careers. I also want to make sure that we actually have as robust a community policing program as we can have. What are the standards for relationship building that police can make and the community can make with each other? That is going to be a vital part of making sure that our streets are safe and we can have the trust that people can look out after one another and have a police force that's accountable to us. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And while John is making his exit, I want to just introduce Bevan Duffy, who's in the house now. Okay, let's get to the next question.
Okay. So before we introduce the next question, given that all the candidates at a certain point does want to answer all the questions, and there are some candidates who hasn't spoke yet. If it's okay with everyone, in order for everyone to be able to answer questions, if I limit the number of questions per set for each candidate to one, so that others can answer. Is that okay for everyone? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
So the next topic is police abuse. What steps will you take to curb police abuse and corruption? Again, the question is, what steps will you take to curb police abuse and corruption?
It's not a popular question, bro.
Okay, so
we have. Who do we have?
All right. Okay. All right. We have 4 candidates raising their placard for this question. Jeff Adachi and David Chu has not answered a question at this set so far, so they will go first, and Terry and Emil will go after they do. I'll have Jeff Adachi go first, if that's okay.
Thank you. It's very important that we hold police officers accountable for misconduct. And it's something that hasn't happened in San Francisco for many, many years, and for a reason. And therefore, when I became public defender, I made it one of my priorities to make sure that we rooted out police corruption. Just in the last 2 years, we've had a technician at the crime lab that was stealing cocaine, taking crime samples from the crime lab and using it. We had over 68 police officers who had records of misconducts or criminal convictions that have never been provided to the defense as is required by law. And this year, when my office discovered that there were police officers who were barging into apartments without a search warrant, we took action. We had videotapes that proved it.
10 seconds.
And I released those videotapes. That's why it takes a mayor that has backbone, that has the willingness to stand up against police misconduct. And not to say that it's every police officer who engages in this, but we have to make sure that the officers who do engage in this are held accountable. Thank you.
Okay. David, your turn.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought Terry was.
No. You haven't answered a question that's set yet, so you could.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think this is a very important question for us, and one that I have some experience as a former prosecutor. I can tell you, when we have issues of police accountability, we break down trust between law enforcement and the community. When young men of color have to worry when they walk down the street if they're going to be unfairly targeted by our law enforcement, we have an issue. And so I think there are a number of things we need to do. We first need to fully implement community policing, which is a system of policing where rank and file officers actually get to know local communities and local merchants to build on that trust. We secondly need to put into place a database system that coordinates information from all of the law enforcement agencies that we have. We have had a system in San Francisco where there's a lot of information that's not passed back and forth between our various law enforcement systems because of a lack of technology. We need to implement that.
10 seconds.
Third thing I would do is make sure that we are enforcing the fact that San Francisco is proud to be a sanctuary city. We are proud to be a city where we respect immigrant communities. We're not turning over young people to our immigration authorities without due process. And I want to be a mayor that makes sure that we tell all of our immigrant communities that we welcome you, you are here to stay, and we're not going to have federal immigration agents tossing out young kids simply because of a mistake they may have made or a mistake that law enforcement may have made.
Thanks.
Okay. And have Terry.
At this point, when there is a possibility of abuse, the police department investigates itself. Now, the fact is, no organization can investigate itself, let alone something like the police department, which is dealing with the possibility of actual physical murder as a form of abuse. I am the only candidate that made a statement about the shooting of Kenneth Harding, the young man who in the Bayview who was running from the police, who was asking for to see his bus transfer, which he didn't have. And there was a gun battle, and Kenneth Harding was shot and died on the street. The police investigated this, and the police investigating themselves said that the bullet that killed Harding was not from a policeman's gun.
10 seconds.
This was the police saying it. How can we know whether that's true? We absolutely must demand that when violence happens, it is investigated by an organization outside of the organization that committed the violence. Then we will know the truth. The way it is going now, we never know the truth, and the abuse continues. Thank you.
Okay. Emil.
Say that again, bro.
Emil.
Yes. Emil, that's you. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you go back over the last 2 years on SFG TV before the police commission, you will see my almost 150 appearances before the commission. I've asked various questions over the last 2 to 2.5 years at the OCC hearings also, which is part of the police commission, for a list of police officers that have multiple complaints against them. 95% of the police department does an excellent job. There's probably 3 or 4% that have multiple complaints against them. When I say multiple, a police officer maybe over a period of 2 years has anywhere between 10 and 15 Office of Citizen complaints against them, of which the Office OCC chairman will not release to the public. These are the issues at the police department where the problems are.
10 seconds.
And the police department has to solve that problem by turning that list over to you or publishing it on a monthly or yearly basis so you'll exactly know who the problem officers are, which is not the majority of them, which is a small percentage of them. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, this is our third question of the second set.
So this question is on Muni. What would you do to improve Muni service and make it affordable? And make it more affordable. What would you do to improve Muni service and make it more affordable?
Keep your placard up, please.
She hasn't gone yet.
I know. Hold on.
Do you want everybody to answer?
No. Yeah, sure.
Okay, on this one, take 30 seconds. Anyone who wants to answer this one can answer. We have too many placards to sort of just decide. So, Bevan, we'll start with you because you haven't said anything, and then we'll work our way back this way, okay?
But it's a 30-second answer.
30 seconds, please.
I'm sorry I was late. The janitors union just started their contract negotiations, so they invited me to a rally. I talk about Muni as rainy days and Monday. People who run for mayor tell you how great they are. It's about the people that work for the city. There are 27,000 people, and I want to focus on the operators. 1 out of every 8 shift, an operator isn't coming to work, and I'm not blaming them. We have to do a better job so people aren't standing on buses and urinating, that they're not having bleach thrown on them. We've got to uplift the people that work for Muni to deliver a better product. And if people came to work and didn't miss 1 out of every 8 shifts, we'd make a big difference. But it's a much longer answer. But thank you.
We actually paid about $3 million for a great plan called the Transit Effectiveness Project. And what part of that plan says is if every bus line could just save 1 minute, Muni would save $20 million. So imagine how easy it would be for every bus line just to save 1 minute. And the reason $20 million is important is because $20 million is the exact amount of the budget deficit. So imagine if we could board through both doors. Imagine if we actually had lanes that were dedicated to buses so they don't have to wait behind cars. Imagine if we actually had the buses and the rail lines timed with the stoplights, so because we're a transit-first city, they got priority over the cars and everybody else.
10 seconds.
These are many of the ideas that are actually in the plan that haven't been implemented. So for us, I would love your help at Reset San Francisco to join us at many of our town halls to talk about how we can make this a reality and not just a plan. Thank you.
Yeah, one of the Bevan's and Phil's ideas are great. Right now solutions and near-term solutions. We also need a long-term solution. I propose we build a brand new Muni subway system to cover the north, south, east, west transit needs of San Francisco like a real metropolitan center. And I propose that it be free so that it attract people from San Francisco and Northern California to come to San Francisco and spend money. Now, we have the money to do this. If we set up a public bank, I was talking with Bruce Rosenberg from the District Attorney's Office, and he said if we took all of our assets and pulled them together in a public bank, we would have $1 to $1.5 trillion of money to build infrastructure and cover our schools. So we need a new bank, we need a new mayor, we need a new direction. Thank you.
Working our
in
way
the
back
city
down
and
to
county of San Francisco, I drive a taxi. Taxis are regulated by the MTA. The problem with Muni today isn't the Muni. The problem is with the union that controls Muni. They let the proliferation of these abuses go on for a decade, claiming that upper management makes more than they do. My solution to Muni would be I would privatize it over a period of 4 years and issue Muni medallions, 1 bus medallion per bus driver to drive like a taxi does, where if you don't have any passengers, you don't make any money. There would no longer be any red ink flowing into City Hall. Matter of fact, it would be a cash machine because you would get fees from Muni every year and you'd have the same regulations. That's what I plan to do, put together an MTA, Muni, limousine, and jitney commission and disband the present commission in its present form.
Okay, we're working.
Next one. Hello.
Yeah. Well, finally they get a chance to talk.
Ladies first.
Well, as a professor, I really am very happy to see so many people that are talking. We tend to, hold back and let people talk. Anyway, about Muni. Every candidate since the history of candidacy have been talking about Muni. I just want to let you know that December 5th was the date of 2009, we formed an organization called SaveMuni.com to look into the problem. My co-chair, Howard Wong, so we've been talking about that regularly, how to improve Muni.
10 seconds.
So anyway, the biggest, hottest issue right now is Central Subway. I can talk for hours, but don't forget that I live in Chinatown for the last 35 years, and I have very serious doubt about the Central Subway.
I'm a former parking and traffic commissioner. We have to revamp, clean the corruption of Muni from the top to the bottom. Some Muni drivers, some mechanics, they punch the car at 7 o'clock and it pays to somebody else, like for instance, my friend here, he will punch the car to go out. They don't work. It's so much corruption. 80% of the tickets we pay goes toward the Muni to keep the corruption going. It's a priority because San Francisco is only 42 square miles. I don't see, like Mr. Field was saying, 1 minute for one bus means half an hour for the next buses they coming next to each other ones. And I will clean that mess, but you have to trust me. You can vote for beautiful people here, or you will vote for a businessman who knows how to make a payroll. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Unlike our current interim mayor and the last mayor, Gavin Newsom, I would not appoint as executive director someone just for political reasons, and that's exactly what happened. Okay? Both of them are now out there at 300, 250, 300 plus a year. As your mayor, I would appoint someone who absolutely has the experience to run a modern urban transportation system, and specifically in San Francisco, which has physical differences than other cities, hopefully someone from San Francisco, and lastly, someone who can instill discipline, morale, and integrity back into the workforce of the MTA. Thank you.
I think in order to fix Muni, you need a mayor who actually is going to ride Muni.
Well, you're not the only one. I have a senior pass, and I don't own a car. So, David, I never owned a car, and I do have a fast pass, a senior pass.
I appreciate that. In fact,
let's be respectful today. Let's be respectful.
I will say, I think many of the candidates here, we actually do take Muni, but I am one of the few candidates who, like many of you, do not have a car. I get around town on Muni, on my bicycle, with city car share, and I've been proud of my record of fighting for transit reform, of fighting to put tens of millions of dollars more into Muni so we could reverse recent fare increases and service cuts. I'm proud of my record of expanding car sharing all of the city and making sure that our streets are safe for pedestrians and for cyclists. I only have 9 more seconds. So I want to ask all of you, if you have a chance to read my 21st century blueprint for moving forward a transit-first city. We have many, many ideas in what we need to do here to make sure our streets are safe and are efficient and effective so that we all can live in a city that we love and get around when we need to. Thank you.
Audiences, please, you might like it, but hold down on the applause, please. You're trying to get through this, okay?
I'm going to be the mayor that's going to make sure that David Chu and Wilma Pang is going to have a bus when they need it. That's what I'm going to do. But you know, we produce on time. we just recently sunshine our environmental plan, and in our environmental plan, we said that we want to, by the year 2020, add 100,000 more riders, take 50,000 cars, off of our roads. That's the commitment that I have. Part of it is that we've got to use technology to make sure that the buses are run efficiently, that we've got to make sure that the dollars that are available from the state and from the city are going to be directed towards Muni and not siphoned off for other kinds of projects. We all have got to understand that we cannot survive in the city if we don't support public transportation. There's just not enough space, there's not enough room, there's not enough air quality to support more cars. And so we've got to all commit to try and find ways to fix Muni, and I'm committed to doing that.
See, you starting them with the clapping. I'm trying to get them to stop.
Sorry, I just wanted him to feel acknowledged. Very nice. So I have made an absolute effort to ride every single Muni line in the city. And I will tell you, Muni is the glaring example of the disparities in San Francisco. There are lines, unfortunately, on the north side of town where you'll see 5 double buses come with 3 people on them, and there are lines on the south side of town where there's 100 people waiting to get on one single bus. And it is absolutely wrong. We need to embrace our entrepreneurial spirit here, make sure that the department heads who run Muni are incented to continually look to innovate and improve service and do so for less money. I also support a $100 vehicle mitigation fee to bring some near-term money into the system. Thank you.
All right. So that was the last question of our second set. I think we're going to move to the third set of questions and go back to the original format, which is 1 question per candidate for these 3 questions. Everyone understand? Excellent. Okay.
Okay, so the next topic is homelessness. What are your plans to deal with the continuing problem of homelessness in the city? Again, the question is, what are your plans to deal with the continuing problem of homelessness in the city?
Okay. Who's the first person?
The first person was actually.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. First person is Mr. Greer.
Hi. I'm intimately familiar with homelessness in San Francisco. I used to live in the bushes of the Presidio. I started a wireless telecom company to compete with AT&T and ran into a 7-year antitrust battle, and I ended up on the street eating out of the garbage cans. And Gavin Newsom's $67 a month, care not cash, and a place to sleep in the bushes is not how you deal with homelessness in a civilized city like San Francisco. And that was what I dealt with for 4 months until I threatened to sue the people in City Hall in federal court. And all of a sudden I got a room at the Boyd Hotel in the Tenderloin. 3 years later, I threatened to sue at public housing, and I got into a place at in public housing. So I live in the projects. I live on SSI. Unlike
10 seconds.
Candidates. I understand what $800 a month is like in San Francisco. What we need to do is end homelessness. We need to provide housing. We can do that. Within the first 60 days of my administration, we're going to start taking people off the streets and set up transitional housing and provide accommodation. We have 30,000 empty apartments, 10,000 homeless people.
Wrap it up, please.
And we can cure that within 60 to 90 days. We need to do it and start acting like adults.
Okay. I have Emil.
I can tell you a lot about homelessness. I was homeless myself for 2.5 years in this city while I was waiting to get my taxi medallion. I lived in my car. I didn't make enough money to pay rent. When I wrote a column for the San Francisco Examiner and the San Francisco Chronicle, which was known as the Night Cabbie, between that column and what I made as income as a taxi driver, I couldn't pay my rent. So I know what homelessness is all about. I wrote about it. I talked to many of them over a period of time. The city has a homeless problem because the whole nation has a homeless problem. It's just that there's more of them here in San Francisco because it's a close proximity to a lot of centers that help homeless people. And I don't deny them that right. But to say that San Francisco can help homeless people any more than any other county is a mistake. I think the problem today with the homeless situation is that it's relatively still growing. It hasn't gone away. At the same time that it's growing, they're cutting services to them. At the same time that the salaries of people making $200,000, $300,000, and $400,000 a year are going up by 8.5% a year in this city, with their pensions going up the same rate. That's the problem. They're not cutting their salaries, but they're cutting all sorts of facilities that deal with the handicapped,
wrap it up, please,
the veterans, and homeless people, which I'm totally against. And we have a lot of homeless veterans because I'm a United States Naval veteran, and I meet a lot of them. And there's some of them up here at City College that are homeless, by the way. So I pass it along to you.
You gotta stop. Thank you. Okay. I love the nightcap. Anybody remember that column? I love that column. That was great. Okay. That was really dope. I'm sorry. I just want to shout at her. Next person.
I have Tony Hall.
You know, folks, back in 2002, Willie Brown's last year in office, we were spending $200 million a year on homeless outreach. And then San Franciscans were sold the biggest con job in modern history, care not cash. We now are servicing the same 9,000 to 13,000 people, except it's costing us $1.3 billion a year. Okay? Who's making the money? We can afford, with the money we're spending, to give each homeless person in San Francisco $60,000 to $80,000 a year. Where's that money going? It's going in the nonprofit homeless industry service providers whose business is what? Homelessness. By law, you cannot audit them. As your mayor, I will monitor them and ensure you that the non-competitive bid contracts that are being doled out to dozens of homeless industry service providers who are taking your charity and ripping off the homeless people themselves will be out of business. That's for sure.
Have Leyland.
As a business owner, I did no 1, no 10, no 20 benefits for the homeless in Caesars, Latin Palace, Army, and Mission.
Caesar, hold on. Let me stop you. We have Leland going at this point. I just want to make sure we stick to the schedule. Okay, sir? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You know,
wait. Let him go. I'm stopping you. Let him go.
You know, my view of homeless is that I don't think anybody wants to be homeless. And so homeless is not a problem. Homeless ought not to be a crime. What ought to be a crime is the inability of us to try and help those individuals who are homeless to kind of get back on their feet. Part of the solution then is that we all need to then understand what are some of the underlying causes of that homelessness. There's some individuals who are just simply out of luck, and how do we provide jobs for them? How do we help them? There are others who may have some mental health issues or physical health issues. What is it that we need to do to provide the appropriate diagnostic tools to understand, how these individuals are functioning and what are some of the limitations that they may have, and how do we help them with those issues? And then finally, we've got to then have services for them. You can't just simply say, well, you're homeless, and then try to somehow identify the problem and then not have the services for them. The problem in this city is that we kind of wrap everyone as homeless into one a group of individuals just simply need housing. They need more than housing. They need services, either clinical services, physical health services, mental health services, job services, whatever it may be, and we've got to do that. Until you deal with that, you're not going to solve this particular problem. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Go ahead. Okay. So this is the second question of the third set.
Joanne Reese.
Oh, Joanne, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. My problem.
Next. To build on what some of the other candidates have talked about, we need to centralize. There is a homeless reform program in Denver called The Road Home that, as far as I can tell, has been the most effective homeless reform program, where everything is centralized. All the providers of homeless services participate in this one central body. Everything that they do is fully transparent and accountable. There's even former homeless people on the board to be able to provide the perspective of what it's like to be in the system. Every single person is assessed. Is it someone who's just down on their luck, who needs job retraining or other supportive services? Is it mental illness or a drug or alcohol problem? And they're put on a pathway to reform. Denver is now spending less than half of what they were spending prior to implementing this program, and having a very high success rate of getting people back to self-sustainability or the right path of long-term care. We have a program here called Project Homeless Connect, which is a one-day service. I'd make it a permanent facility and set up the same structure as the Road Home in order to be able to have that positive impact here.
Anybody else on this? Okay, moving to the second question of the third set.
This question is on housing. What will you do to make more affordable housing available? What will you do to make more affordable housing available?
I have four speakers, none of whom has speak this round so far. I'll go with David, Cesar, and Terry, and Phil.
So this is, I think, one of the central questions facing San Francisco. When I was in my 20s, I had 4 roommates. Not a single one of them actually lives here in the city anymore because of the cost of housing. And I sit in front of you as one of the few mayoral candidates who's a tenant, who knows that we've had thousands of tenants who've been evicted in recent years, homeowners who've been foreclosed upon. And this is why I'm proud of my record of championing legislation to increase affordable housing in San Francisco. Over the past year, we have green-lighted the development of about 30,000 new units of housing, many of which are affordable. I've passed legislation to increase affordable housing for homeless veterans, for seniors, home ownership opportunities for low-income folks, but we need to do better. We need to invest in pots of money To create more affordable housing, we need to protect folks who are tenants here in town. And I hope you will have a chance to visit my housing paper on the website. Let me also say I want to thank you for being here. Unfortunately, I have to give a speech on the east side of town. I want to thank New American Media for covering this and all the ethnic organizations and news organizations that are a part of New American Media. And I want to invite all of you to get involved in my campaign. We are a campaign that actually has a fellowship program for students, including City College students, to teach the next generation of activists in town how to organize and how to move our great city forward. I would be honored if you join me. Please visit davidchuformayor.com. Thank you so much.
Okay, I have Cesar.
That's me?
Cesar?
Yes, that's you.
I was in Bernal Heights Forum a few months ago. They asked about affordable housing. And I tell them, you don't have to look, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you look South America, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, Peru, Venezuela, Colombia, in a block, it used to be maybe a one house, big house or mansion, or two houses, three houses. The only way you can do affordable housing is going up. 20 stories high, 15, whatever, with parking lots. But the problem is here that at Bernal Heights, they told me, we want affordable housing, but you cannot change the character of the city. It's a little big problem. That's why sometimes we ask for affordable housing. It's only 42 square miles. San Francisco is out of reach of regular average person. It's too expensive. Rooms in the Mission District many years ago used to be $100, $150, $200. Now, 10 seconds. One bed is $600 to $700. We have to change that. But Mr. Alvalos wants to have a $5 billion bond to give you free housing, whatever. It's just that's not the way it is. The way it is, going lily up, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's very simple. In one house, now we can have 20 houses. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, I have Terry.
Don't be afraid to applaud.
This city is losing its soul because the artists, the workers, the poor people, the families are being driven out of it because only the rich can afford to buy housing in San Francisco or rent. I propose to stop building any more housing for the wealthy. That's it. We have enough. We don't need any more rich people in San Francisco, folks. Let's just say enough already. No more housing for the wealthy until there is housing for the rest of us. Students, poor people, working people, families, artists. And let's build housing that will preserve rent control. We can't build it anymore, but I say never tear down rent control housing if you could renovate it. I'm totally against the tearing down of the units at Park Merced. I would stop housing for the wealthy, only housing for middle income and poor people, and only renovate housing that already exists that is rent control so that this city could gain back the soul that it is losing so rapidly. Thank you.
I have Phil Ting.
We do need to build more housing, and we also need the money to do it. So one of the things I would champion would be an affordable housing bond. The last two tries that we've presented it to the city, we've missed by a very narrow margin. I would need your help to tell everybody why we need more affordable housing. On top of that, we also need more family housing. Most of the housing that's been built the last year or two has been studios and one bedrooms. Well, it's hard for a family of 4 or 5 to live in a studio or one bedroom. We need to help developers increase density bonuses, offer them incentives to build that kind of family housing. And lastly, the way we can drive housing costs cheaper is if we could make the building and planning department much more streamlined. You know, if it takes a year longer for a developer to build housing, that cost gets passed down to us and our families.
10 seconds.
If we could save that, streamline it, prioritize much of the residential housing that's going forward, and have that go through much faster, that cost would come down in San Francisco. So help me do that at Reset San Francisco. Thank you.
Do we have anybody else?
Yeah. Okay, so for this round, whoever hasn't answered the question, they'll answer it. Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Emil. You want to answer this question? Is anybody else want to answer this question that hasn't?
This is the question I refused to answer earlier about poverty in San Francisco. I worked at HUD for 2.5 years doing database and secretarial work for executives at HUD. I answered the telephone and supplied housing for ex-cons getting out of prison with $20 in their pocket with no money to rent anywhere. So this federal government would put them up in housing off of 6th Street, and I would just call hotel one after another to do that. But the problem goes back to HUD with the housing problem in San Francisco. San Francisco is attracting the poor with the wealthy. The middle class has already exited San Mateo County and the East Bay, where the 49ers are opening up shop in a couple of years. That's reality. All the talk in the world coming out of City Hall about what they're going to do for homeless and housing is rhetoric. Housing is supported by the federal government, both on the rich end, by supporting mortgages that are basically abstinine, and on the other side, supporting public housing that goes bankrupt about every 2 to 5 years because it's mismanaged. And billions of dollars are lost. And if you look, don't take my word for it, Fannie Mae went in the hole with $7 trillion supporting mortgages on one side, and public housing is a deficit on the other. Thank you.
So we'll go Bevan and then you, Tony. You'll be the last word. Go ahead.
In my last year on the Board of Supervisors, I sponsored legislation around student housing. And Boston is a city that had a student housing program and over 10 years developed 10,000 units of student housing. And here the default for it is really Craigslist. And a lot of our higher education institutions don't initiate housing. And so what my legislation did was to take the affordability requirement that you have for new construction out, as long as that university would certify that a sufficient number of students were low income, self-supporting. And so my goal is to see some of our higher education institutions start to build housing for students. The next part of my agenda is around public housing, and we need to create life campuses at our public housing. Why is it in homelessness we recognize that giving somebody a key to an SRO wasn't going to change their life, but somehow we think giving somebody a key to a unit at Sunnydale or Plaza East is going to change their life? We need to bring our universities in to our public housing developments, create robust programming. I want to see artists live in public housing. We need to have an artist in residence program so you have positive activity with ceramicists, photographers, and others teaching young people, seniors, so you have positive activity at public housing. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, it's great to talk about many, many ideas, and a lot of them have validity, but actually coming up with a program that solves the problem is the trick. In 2002, I initiated a public ballot program to instill what I called hope. You can find it on my website. And what it does, 75% of the people living in San Francisco are tenants. If we could provide them a way to get a piece of the rock, most of them do not have the money to buy a house. The price of homes, single-family homes, are too high. But if we would allow landlords to voluntarily sell the apartments that the tenants are living in as separate deeded units to the tenants, they could now lock into the rock that's called San Francisco. At the starter home, there's many, many families living in apartments that are paying rents that are now higher than they would be at a mortgage under my program. I encourage you to check it out. It's called Hope. I first put it on the ballot in 2002. As your mayor, I would bring this back because it does solve the problem of affordable housing. Thank you.
Okay, this is the last question of set 3.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. So the next topic is healthcare. What will you do to make sure that Healthy SF reaches all eligible city residents? Again, the question is, what will you do to make sure that Healthy SF reaches all eligible city residents?
Okay, let's start with Bevan. Okay. And then come on.
All right.
Well, first of all, I was the 8th vote for Healthy San Francisco, and the genesis of it was now Assembly Member Tom Amiano proposed it with the labor community, and I want to give Tom a lot of credit because he's done amazing things in San Francisco and been an incredible forward-thinking legislator. And when the Blue Ribbon Commission finished, it looked like there was going to be a catfight between business and labor. And I took a stand with labor and said I wanted to be the eighth vote. And I think that this has been an enormously successful program. What we have to continue to do is to invest in our clinic system. We have to make sure that people don't have to wait 3 months for their initial appointment. We spend about $1 billion on our public health system. And I didn't get to talk about homelessness, but with our chronic street alcoholic population, we spend $13.5 million on our top 225 street drunks. That's $60,000 a person that people are cycling in and out. Seattle has something called wet housing. Very low threshold, people are able to drink in that housing, and over 5 years, it's been amazing. The first year, they saved $4 million.
10 seconds.
So I want to focus really on outcomes, allowing people to have dignity if they are chronic street alcoholics and not having them in and out of emergency rooms and jails, and that money go into supporting our clinic system, which is the backbone of Healthy San Francisco. Thank you.
And I have Jeff Adachi.
Thank you. I'm curious how many folks are uninsured or don't have a form of health insurance. You see, even with Healthy San Francisco, there are still folks who are uninsured, and that's why we have to move to a single-payer system. And the problem is that we haven't had the political will and courage to make this happen. And it's got to be something that has to be the focus of this next presidential election. Now, in San Francisco, we're lucky that we have the Healthy San Francisco program, and it really is a model that can be applied in other parts of the country. But health insurance is still too expensive. And it's too expensive because the average person, can't afford to pay the premiums. And so unless we move to a single payer system, we're constantly going to have people who are not able to afford health insurance, but have health needs that are not being taken care of.
10 seconds.
And is going to overburden the healthcare system, which is what caused this problem in the first place, in part with the high cost of healthcare. And so, again, I would work to advocate and to implement a single payer system nationally.
Okay, and I have Emil. You did raise your card, but you had answered all the other questions, so I had you go last. Please. Okay. Emil. You do have your card. I do have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I'd like to talk about the health plan very briefly, and I'm just going to make a quick 45-second statement. I have a veterans health plan, so I can't tell you specifically what's covered under your plan. But I know this from what I've read. It doesn't match what City Hall has. It's not even close. Part of the reason why the city and county of San Francisco is going into bankruptcy is due to the medical plan that they have that covers almost everything under the sun. And the plan for the residents at large does not cover that. It doesn't cover 1/5 of that. So when we talk about health plans for people at large, we're talking about two different plans. City Hall has a lot of rhetoric about what your plan should be, when their plan covers everything all the way to the sun in orbit.
10 seconds.
And that's the difference. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to collapse our questions for the fourth set into one question, give every candidate a chance to respond to it, and that'll be the end of this party. Is that cool?
Yeah, the last two questions are education and higher education, so it's okay. We're going to basically have as one question, and all of you can answer. Okay?
So we're going to read both questions.
Read both questions.
Okay.
How do you intend to ensure all children from all income levels receive high-quality public education? How do you intend to ensure all children from all income levels receive high-quality public education?
And the second part to that question is, what concrete plans do you have to make higher education more affordable and accessible?
I'll give you 1 minute to answer this question, please. And everyone can go.
Everyone gets the answer.
So we'll start with you, Lottie. Go that way for whoever wants to answer.
So as I said in my opening, my moment of obligation when I knew I had to run was when I was convinced the only way we're going to significantly impact public education across our community is if the mayor makes it a high-level priority. So it starts with that. I do believe we have to go back to neighborhood schools where we can build community around the schools. I've been in many blocks in San Francisco where there's 20 kids on the block who all go to different elementary schools, and I cannot tell you how many young people, young at the age of 7, who I've met alone on a muni bus heading to school on the other side of town. We need to locate so many of the programs that we fund that support children and families on site at the schools, so we're building a support infrastructure for kids and not putting the entire burden on teachers. We have an opportunity to reach out to the business community in 2 capacities, helping provide professional development for teachers and principals, which is the first thing that gets cut, as well as providing an internship for every child in 9th grade so they can see a pathway to their future. And then as the innovation capital of the world, I always say we're like the shoemaker's kids who don't have any shoes. We're not piloting any innovation in the public school system, and there's some great work that I've been involved with happening around the country we're not doing here. This is where we need to reach out to the philanthropic community who will not give money directly to the school district, but will give money to pilot innovative programs in the areas of adapted learning, individualized curriculum, and those are the things that I would do.
Thank you. You know, I'm not going to sit up here and kid you. There's very little that a mayor can do to affect education that is being administered by the state. There's a lot of good a mayor can do when he gets behind those candidates for school board who have the children's and students' curriculum at mind. There's a lot of good a mayor can do when he actually goes out and tries to secure funding where the state falls short. And as your mayor, I would do that. I would also seek to the private sector to help us out with scholarships, participation programs, again, to make up for the shortfall that the state is experiencing. So I'm not going to sit up here and tell you, yeah, I'm going to change the educational system, because it's not going to happen. I will do whatever I can as a mayor to provide the leadership to ensure that the goal is to educate students for their future so San Francisco can stay alive.
Well, I came to this country first with few dollars. The next time when I came with my green card, 25 cents on Market Street and 7 Greyhound. I enhanced my education at UC Berkeley and also USF. The main thing for me is to try to pay the teachers better and get excellent teachers. I have 2 nieces. They came 2 years ago, and they took a test. In South America, there are 6 grades for high school and 6 for the lower one. They were only 3rd grade. They took the test in City College and the State University. They were in the top 5. The education has to be much better. The mayor, like Mr. Hall says, not very much can do. The state is the one that regulates. But the thing is, I will bring businesses to San Francisco, work with corporations, be friendly, not chasing them away. And that way we can generate a lot of money to have better teachers, better education, a better future for my son, for everybody. Thank you very much.
Well, I've raised 3 daughters in the city, and they all went to public schools. I have taught from kindergarten to college level. So education, the first thing is we have to find and retain quality teachers. How are we going to retain quality? I'm talking about primary. Is providing some subsidies for housing to attract teachers to stay in San Francisco. That's very roughly put it. But as far as higher education, where you are and where I've been for the last 30 years, there is so much said and so much we've gone through at City College. And I'm sure that you have seen me at rallies, Sacramento. Budget cut is one thing. You know, it really hurts the departments, like we don't even have supplies right now. So how are we going to do it? We have to talk to the legislators. Education is the future of you. Don't do any cuts.
California used to be famous for its fantastic public schools and its incredible, internationally known higher education. Now, it's all fallen apart, and we have headlines like the one in the Guardsman saying that people can only get classes in San Francisco State through a lottery system. What has happened? It's Proposition 13, which gives corporations and all commercial landowners a break on property taxes. It shifts the burden to residences, and it reduces the amount of property taxes, which is what funds our education. This has been a sacred cow in California politics. All the Democrats are afraid to say we need to reform Prop 13. I am a member of the Green Party, and I say that's what we have to do.
10 seconds.
We have to change it so that the burden is equalized and corporations pay their fair share of property taxes. And my very first day as mayor, I will call the other mayors of the 20 largest cities in California, and I will say, this is what we have to do. We have to put it on the ballot. We have to reform Prop 13 because it's letting the corporations off the hook, and then our schools will have the money to thrive. Thank you.
No, I agree. It really comes down to resources. And the fact that tuitions are going up, the fact that class sizes are going up. As I mentioned earlier, we've cut summer school for kids. And we're at a point where we're cutting summer school for kids. Who would have thought? At the same time, we're spending more in this state on prisons than we are education for the first time. We're seeing basic resources that for years have been devoted to education are being put in a $500 billion unfunded liability for pensions.
10 seconds.
This is the reason why I got into the issue of pension reform, because you need a leader who's going to fix this problem. Because if you don't, we know what's going to happen. It's going to be more of the same. And that's why, if you want more of the same, then vote for somebody else. But if you want leadership that is going to have the backbone to make the kind of changes that are going to keep all these programs in the safety net
Wrap it up,
that
Jeff.
we care about as progressives, then support me. Thank you.
Public education, it's a good topic. A lot of people like to fill up columns in the paper on it. They like to bring it before the public about what a great job they're doing. The fact remains is City Hall doesn't hire anybody with a public education. 80% of the jobs for attorneys and higher-ups are from private institutions. That's reality. You're part of a public school system, City College, where you can get an AA and go on to a private institution. The public institutions have already failed you. And I can tell you, as my prime example is myself, 30 years of applying for jobs in various industries only to find out Brown, Duke, and every school in town got hired but me. You have to look at reality and look at public education in that light. That 60 to 70% of the people that graduate or kids that graduate from public high schools in San Francisco don't pass the exit exam or pass it with some score on the line. Because public education is a failure. Everyone's going to private education if you want to move up, and don't take my word for it. If you go to the district attorney's office, they have one guy from Hastings, which is a local law school, and everyone else is from the East Coast or Stanford. That's reality. Don't get sold on a bad dream. Part of education is to get you a job and get you mobile in your life, which you can do something with your education.
Wrap it up, please.
Not just to fill out applications year after year.
The website is mayorcourier.com. There's a second website, and this is a call to action I'm sending out to all the 78 California community college systems, to all the students statewide, so please carry the message, not the mess. The message is we need to call California to a constitutional convention. We need to end the war on drugs. We need a statewide single-payer system. We need to rewrite Prop 13. There's a whole lot of issues. We need gay marriage, equal marriage rights. We need immigration dealt with at a state level. We need California's master plan on education reinforced. We need to stop funding the war on drugs and save the $30 to $50 billion a year we spend between the state and the counties.
10 seconds.
That's no longer going to education. So if you want the money for education and you want California to have a free public education system from the cradle to the grave, go ahead and please endorse me, vote for me, mayorcourier.com. Please sign up, and please go to the California Action Network to read the constitutional initiatives I wrote so we can call our state to convention. Thank you.
Well, again, thanks so much for joining us today. I think education is probably the most important issue in this election. I'm a proud product of California public schools, all the way from kindergarten all the way to the UC Berkeley. I have two children, one who's 4 years old and one who's 1 year old. And I'm worried that we're giving them a worse life than the life that I had. That's why I've already done what Terry said that she's going to do. I started a campaign on Prop 13 2 years ago. It's called CloseTheLoophole.com. I'd love you to join me. Right now, California is paying per pupil half of what New York and New Jersey pay for. We pay about $7,000 per pupil in public schools. New York and Jersey give about $15,000. You think that $7,000 would make a difference? Here's where it goes. It goes to smaller class sizes. It goes to physical education. It goes to make sure that you actually can get the classes that you need to get your education.
10 seconds.
This is so critical that we need to reinvest in public education. And if we don't, we're going to pay for it not just with our economy, but with our future. So please join me there. Would love your support for this mayoral election as well. And thanks so much for being here today and being part of the solution.
I do want to say that Phil has done a great job on split roll and talking about it, and it is a very significant issue. I'm a gay dad. I have a 5-year-old, and she started public school. I'm one of two people, along with John Avalos, who have kids in public school, and it matters. And it's going to matter to be a mayor that invests my child and my time in supporting public education. I believe City College is the most important higher education institution we have in our city, in terms of giving people opportunity and allowing people to change their lives. And I'm going to back that up and support a parcel tax to support City College. We've got to provide more dedicated funding, just as we have with our public education system. And I was instrumental in doing that with Prop H that Tom Amiano again did, that provided this year $31 million to our public schools. In every room I've been in through this campaign, some of the whitest rooms in San Francisco, I've talked about a black agenda. And if you look at what has happened to our African American population, 6% now, down by 2/3, and the lack of opportunity that we've seen, I simply say to you that education is really the focal point that we have to have. I invite you to visit bevindufty.com and to consider me. Thank you so much.
I'd like to have an announcement for everyone in the audience. Professor Tim Killikelly is having a voter registration drive outside in the hallway, so if you have time, when you get a chance after listening to this, please do register to vote. That would be really tremendously helpful. Thank you.
Okay, and it's 1 o'clock. We reached our time. I want to thank all the candidates for coming. Actually, could you give them a round of applause? I also want to thank all my colleagues at New American Media, Zanib Mohammed especially. Give Zanib a round of applause. You don't know what she did? She deserves it. Also, Leslie and her staff at the Community College of San Francisco. It's not the Community College, City College of San Francisco. Thank you for having us. We appreciate it, and thanks for coming. Peace.
Thank you.